The last explosion faded into silence. Smoke rose from the battlefield like ghosts escaping the dead. Admiral Kwanduri stood at the observation window of his flagship, watching the colony world of Tessera 9 burn beneath him. 3 days of fighting. 3 days of blood and fire. And now, finally, it was over. The Vorn Dominion had retreated. Their black ships had jumped away, leaving behind thousands of dead soldiers scattered across the plains below. The coalition had won. Duri allowed himself a small breath of relief. He was old for a military commander, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many wars. But this victory felt good. The Vorn were brutal enemies, and stopping them here meant saving millions of lives on other worlds. His communication officer turned to him. "Sir, Commander Yeohana is reporting from the surface. She says the enemy has fully withdrawn. Recovery operations are beginning." "Good," Duri said. "Tell her to tend to the wounded first. We have time now." On the surface, Commander Yeohana walked through the aftermath of battle. She was not human. Her species, the Rilari, had blue-gray skin and 4 arms. She used 2 of them to hold her rifle and the other 2 to help a wounded soldier stand. Around her, troops from 12 different species worked together. Some carried the injured, others collected weapons. A few simply sat in the dirt, too exhausted to move. Hana had fought in many battles. She knew what victory looked like. It looked like this: tired soldiers, burning fields, and the quiet relief of survival. "Commander," her aide said, approaching quickly, "we're detecting ships entering the atmosphere." Hana looked up at the orange sky. 3 massive transport vessels were descending through the clouds. They were big, ugly ships, built for carrying soldiers into combat zones. But there was no combat left. "Whose ships are those?" Hana asked. Her aide checked his datapad. "Human registry, the 7th Terran Assault Division." Hana frowned. Humans were part of the coalition, of course. They were strange creatures, soft-bodied, slow, not particularly strong, but they were reliable allies and surprisingly good at war. Still, these ships were not part of her battle plan. She opened a communication channel. "Human vessels, this is Coalition Commander Yeohana. State your purpose. The battle is over." There was a moment of static. Then a calm voice replied. It belonged to a human male, speaking in the flat, controlled tone of a professional soldier. "Commander Hana, this is Colonel Park Teho of the 7th Terran Assault Division. We're here to clean up." "Clean up?" Hana looked around at the battlefield. Her soldiers were already cleaning up. "Colonel, I appreciate the offer, but we have the situation under control. The Vorn have retreated." "Yes, ma'am. They retreated 12 kilometers north into the mountain passes. Our scans show approximately 3,000 enemy soldiers regrouping there. They're preparing for a counterattack at dawn." Hana felt a chill run through her body. She checked her own sensors immediately. They showed nothing. The mountains appeared empty. "Colonel, our sensors detect no enemy presence in that region." "Your sensors are looking for large formations and heat signatures," Taiho replied. "The Vorn are using natural cave systems and thermal dampening. They're hiding, but they're there." Hana did not know what to say. If the human was right, then the battle was not over at all. If he was wrong, then he was wasting everyone's time. "How do you know this?" she asked. "Because this is what we do, Commander. Other forces fight the battle. We come after, when everyone thinks it's finished. We find the ones who escaped. We make sure they don't come back." The 3 transport ships landed on the plains, crushing the burnt grass beneath their massive landing struts. Their cargo doors opened, and human soldiers began pouring out. They were not like the soldiers Hana had seen before. They wore heavier armor, carried larger weapons, and moved with a strange, purposeful energy. They did not look tired. They looked hungry. Colonel Park Taiho emerged from the lead ship. He was a tall man with a hard face and eyes that seemed to look through everything. He walked directly to Hana and saluted. "Commander," he said, "my troops are ready to deploy. With your permission, we'll handle the mountain operation." Hana studied him. There was something unsettling about the human's confidence. He spoke as if the outcome was already decided. "Colonel, my soldiers have just fought for 3 days. They need rest, not another battle." "That's exactly why we're here," Taeho said. "Your soldiers rest, my soldiers work. That's the arrangement." "What arrangement? I was not informed of any arrangement." Taeho almost smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Humanity joined the Coalition 50 years ago. Since then, we've had an understanding with Coalition Command. When a battle ends, we arrive, we pursue, we finish." Hana felt the weight of his words. She had heard rumors about human assault troops, but she had never seen them in action. Other species whispered about them, soldiers who came after the war was won, who chased enemies into places no one else would go. "Why?" Hana asked. "The battle is won. Why not let the survivors flee?" Taeho looked toward the distant mountains. The sun was setting, painting the peaks in red and gold. Somewhere in those mountains, 3,000 Vorn soldiers were sharpening their weapons and planning revenge. "Because they'll come back," he said quietly. "Not tomorrow, not next month, but someday. They'll remember this defeat, and they'll want blood. They'll attack another colony, kill more civilians, start another war." He turned back to Hana. "We don't let that happen. We end it here. Tonight." Hana wanted to argue. She wanted to say that this was wrong, that mercy mattered, that chasing a beaten enemy was not honorable. But she looked at the bodies still scattered across the battlefield, and she remembered how many of her own soldiers had died in the last 3 days. "Very well, Colonel," she said. "Do what you must." Taeho nodded. He turned and walked back to his troops, already issuing orders through his helmet communicator. Within minutes, the human soldiers had formed into squads and were marching toward the mountains. Hana watched them go. They moved in silence, disappearing into the growing darkness like shadows. The battle was over, but for humanity, the real work was just beginning. Sergeant Shin Yuna checked her medical kit for the 3rd time. It was a habit she had developed over 6 planetary campaigns: bandages, painkillers, blood stop foam, surgical tools. Everything was in place. Everything was always in place. But checking made her feel better. The transport vehicle bounced over rough ground as it carried her squad toward the mountains. Around her sat the soldiers she had served with for 3 years. They were her family now, more than the one she had left behind on Earth. Private First Class. Oh Jinho sat across from her, humming a song under his breath. He was the youngest in the squad, only 22 years old, with a boyish face that made him look even younger. But his hands were steady as he assembled explosive charges. Jinho was their demolitions expert. He could blow up anything, anywhere, anytime. He also told the worst jokes Yuna had ever heard. "Hey, Sarge," Jinho said, looking up from his work. "What do you call a Vorn who retreats?" Yuna sighed. "I don't know, Jinho." "What?" "A future problem." He grinned. "Get it? Because we're going to—" "We get it," Corporal Beck Sora interrupted. She sat in the corner of the transport, cleaning her sniper rifle with careful practiced movements. Sora rarely spoke. When she did, everyone listened. She was the best shot in the entire division, maybe in the entire Terran military. Yuna had seen her hit targets from 2 kilometers away, in the dark, in a sandstorm. Sora never missed. "You're no fun," Jinho muttered. Staff Sergeant Cha Minho sat beside Yuna, reviewing tactical data on his wrist display. He was second in command of the squad, a veteran of 12 campaigns. His left arm was a prosthetic, a sleek metal limb that contained combat tools, sensors, and a hidden blade. He had lost the original arm 3 years ago, on a moon called Kethris 4. He never talked about what happened there. 3,000 enemies, Minho said quietly, hiding in cave systems, limited visibility, close quarters combat. He looked at Yuna. Going to be a long night. When is it ever short? Yuna replied. The last member of their squad was Specialist Ryu Yunji, their communications and electronic warfare expert. She sat with her eyes closed, listening to something through her helmet. Yunji could hack into any system, jam any signal, and decode any message. She was also the only one who remembered everyone's birthday. I'm picking up Vorn communications, Yunji said, opening her eyes. They're scared. Their commander is trying to rally them, but they know we're coming. Good, Minho said. Scared enemies make mistakes. The transport stopped. The rear door opened, revealing the base of the mountain range. It was dark now, the sun completely gone. The peaks rose above them like black giants. Colonel Park Taiho's voice came through their helmet radios. All squads, deploy. We move in silence. No contact until we reach the cave entrances. Remember, we're here to finish this. No survivors means no future attacks. Let's get it done. Yuna stepped out of the transport with her squad. The air was cold and thin. She could smell smoke from the distant battlefield. Around them, dozens of other squads were spreading out, each assigned to a different approach route. They began climbing. The terrain was brutal. Sharp rocks, loose gravel, sudden drops. Any other army would have used vehicles or aircraft. But vehicles made noise, and aircraft could be shot down. Human assault troops moved on foot. They always moved on foot. It was slower, but it was silent. You know, Jinho whispered as they climbed, other species think we're crazy for doing this. They're not wrong, Yuna replied. No, I mean really crazy. The Rilari think battles should end when one side retreats. The Keshin believe in something called honor distance. If an enemy runs far enough, you let them go. The Vorn themselves usually accept surrender. Jinho paused to catch his breath. But us? We chase, we hunt. We follow them into the darkest places. Why? Yuna had asked herself that question many times. Why did humans do this? Why couldn't they just accept victory and go home? She remembered her training. Her instructors had talked about human history, about ancient ancestors who hunted animals by chasing them for hours, for days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest, but they never stopped. That was their gift. That was their curse. Because if we don't, Yuna said, they come back, and next time they kill someone who could have been saved. They climbed in silence for another hour. Sora moved ahead, scouting the path with her enhanced vision. Yunji monitored enemy communications, reporting any changes. Minho kept the squad together, making sure no one fell behind. Finally, they reached a ledge overlooking a cave entrance. Below them, Yuna could see Vorn soldiers moving in the shadows. They were setting up defenses, preparing for the attack they knew was coming. 12 hostiles at the entrance, Sora reported, her eye pressed to her rifle scope. Heavy weapons on the left, commander in the back, giving orders. Can you take the commander? Minho asked. I can take anyone. Minho looked at Yuna. Ready? She nodded. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. This was the moment she trained for. This was the reason she existed. Jinho, Minho said, prepare charges for the secondary exits. Yunji, jam their communications on my signal. Sora, take the commander first, then the heavy weapons. Yuna, you're with me. We go in fast and hard. Everyone acknowledged. They moved into position like parts of a machine, each knowing exactly what to do. Yuna looked down at the cave entrance. Inside those caves were 3,000 soldiers who thought the battle was over. They thought they had escaped. They thought they would live to fight another day. They were wrong. Signal confirmed, Yunji said. Communications jammed. Sora's rifle made a soft sound, barely louder than a whisper. Below, the Vorn commander fell. Then the shooting started. Yuna ran forward with Minho, her rifle firing in short, controlled bursts. The Vorn scrambled to respond, but they were confused, leaderless, cut off from each other. One by one, they fell. In less than 3 minutes, the entrance was clear. "Move," Minho ordered. They entered the caves. The darkness swallowed them whole, but they did not slow down. They did not hesitate. They were human. They were the ones who came after, and they never stopped. Commander Yeo Hana could not sleep. She sat in the mobile command center, watching drone footage from the mountains. The images were grainy, broken by interference from the rock, but she could see enough. She could see the humans moving through the darkness like water flowing through cracks. Beside her sat Lieutenant Pak Do-hoon, a human liaison officer assigned to help coalition commanders understand human tactics. He was young for a human, with a calm face and patient eyes. He had been watching the operation with quiet attention for the last 2 hours. "They don't move like soldiers," Hana said finally. "They move like predators." Do-hoon nodded. "That's because they are." On the screen, a human squad reached a narrow canyon. Vorn scouts were hiding among the rocks above, waiting to ambush anyone who passed. But the humans did not walk into the trap. Instead, they split, half going up the canyon walls, half circling around behind. Within seconds, the scouts were dead. The humans had known exactly where they were. "How?" Hana asked. "How did they know about the ambush?" "Experience," Do-hoon said. "Assault troops spend years training for this. They learn to read terrain, to predict enemy behavior, to sense danger before it appears. It becomes instinct." Hana shook her head. "My soldiers are well trained too, but they could not do this. With respect, Commander, your soldiers are trained to win battles. Human assault troops are trained for something different." Do-hoon paused, choosing his words carefully. "We're trained to end wars." Hana turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" Do-hoon leaned back in his chair. "May I tell you about human history? Please. Thousands of years ago, before we had technology, before we had civilization, humans were hunters. But we were not fast like the predators on our world. We could not catch our prey in a sprint. So we developed a different method. We chased them." "Chased them?" "For hours, for days. We would follow an animal until it collapsed from exhaustion. We never stopped. We never gave up. The prey would run and rest, but we just kept coming. Eventually, the animal would be too tired to run anymore. That's how we survived." Hana felt a strange chill. She tried to imagine being hunted by something that never stopped, never tired, never gave up. The thought was terrifying. "You're saying your assault troops are doing the same thing now?" Do-hoon nodded. "The Vorn think they've escaped. They think if they hide long enough, we'll give up and go away. But we won't. We'll follow them into the deepest caves, the darkest tunnels. We'll find every last one of them. Not because we're cruel, but because we remember." "Remember what?" "Every enemy we let escape. Every attack that came later because we didn't finish the job. Every innocent person who died because we showed mercy to the wrong people." Do-hoon's voice was soft but heavy. "Humans have long memories, Commander. We learn from our mistakes. And we don't make the same mistake twice." Deep in the mountains, Vorn Commander Drath was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible error. He had fought many wars against many species. He knew how battles worked. You attacked, you retreated, you regrouped. If you lost, you fell back to safe territory and rebuilt your forces. Every species in the galaxy followed this pattern, but the humans were not following the pattern. Drath stood in the central chamber of the cave system, surrounded by his remaining soldiers. They had set up strong defenses at every entrance. They had hidden their positions carefully. They had done everything right. And still, the humans were coming. Reports came in from his scouts, each one worse than the last. Northern entrance fallen. Eastern tunnel breached. Western scouts eliminated. The words hit Drath like physical blows. "How many humans are there?" he demanded. His aide checked the sensors. "Approximately 800, Commander." 800. Drath had 3,000 soldiers. The numbers should have been in his favor. But the humans were not fighting like 800 soldiers. They were fighting like ghosts, appearing from nowhere, striking without warning, vanishing before counterattacks could form. "They're cutting off our escape routes," his second-in-command reported. "Every exit we find, they've already blocked it. It's like they know where we're going before we do." Drath gripped his weapon tightly. In 30 years of military service, he had never felt this way. He had faced death many times. He had accepted the possibility of defeat, but this was different. This felt like being hunted. "Prepare for close combat," he ordered. "If they want to come to us, we'll make them pay for every step." But even as he spoke, he could hear the sounds of fighting growing closer. Explosions in the distance, gunfire echoing through the tunnels. His soldiers were dying, one by one, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. A young Vorn soldier approached him, fear visible in his eyes. "Commander, who are these creatures? Why do they pursue us like this? The battle was over. We retreated. Why won't they let us go?" Drath had no answer. He had asked himself the same question 100 times in the last few hours. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The communication system died. A human voice, calm, cold, mechanical, came through the emergency speakers. "Attention, Vorn forces. This is Colonel Park Tai-ho of the 7th Terran Assault Division. Your outer defenses have fallen. Your escape routes are sealed. Your reinforcements are not coming." Drath listened, his heart's pounding. "You have two choices. Surrender now and be treated as prisoners under coalition law, or continue fighting and die here tonight. There will be no retreat. There will be no escape. There is only the choice in front of you." The message ended. Silence filled the chamber. Drath looked at his soldiers. They were tired, scared, far from home. They had already lost one battle today. Could he ask them to lose another? But surrender was not in his nature. The Vorn did not surrender. It was weakness. It was shame. "We fight," Drath said. "To the last soldier. We fight." His soldiers raised their weapons, their eyes hardened with determination. Somewhere in the tunnels, Drath heard footsteps approaching, many footsteps, moving in perfect coordination, growing louder. The humans were coming, and they would not stop until it was finished. The fighting in the caves was unlike anything Yuna had experienced before. There were no clear battle lines, no open fields, no room to breathe, just narrow tunnels, sudden corners, and enemies appearing from the darkness without warning. Every step could be a trap. Every shadow could hide death. Yuna moved through the chaos with her squad, her rifle raised, her senses sharp. Jinho was beside her, lobbing small explosives into side passages to clear them before the squad advanced. Sora covered their rear, her rifle finding targets in the darkness with impossible accuracy. Minho led from the front, his prosthetic arm shifting between weapon and tool as needed. "Contact left," Yunji shouted. Yuna spun and fired. 3 Vorn soldiers fell before they could raise their weapons. She kept moving without pausing. There was no time to think about what she had done, no time to feel anything. That would come later, in the quiet moments when sleep refused to come. They pushed deeper into the cave system. The air grew thick with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Bodies lay everywhere, Vorn soldiers who had died defending their hiding place. Yuna stepped over them without looking down. She had learned long ago not to look at the faces. "We're approaching the central chamber," Minho said through the radio. "All squads converge on my position." The central chamber was massive, a natural cavern the size of a sports stadium. The Vorn had turned it into a fortress, with barricades made from supply crates and heavy weapons mounted on elevated platforms. Hundreds of soldiers waited behind those defenses, ready to fight to the death. Yuna's squad reached the chamber entrance, just as 3 other squads arrived from different tunnels. Colonel Tejo himself was with them, his face calm despite the chaos around him. "Status?" he asked. "Outer defenses eliminated," Minho reported. "Escape routes sealed. Enemy has consolidated in this chamber. Approximately 500 remaining." Tejo nodded. He looked at the barricades, at the armed soldiers behind them, at the determination in their eyes. "Offer them surrender," he said. Yuna blinked. After everything they had done to get here, after all the fighting and killing, Tejo wanted to offer surrender. "Sir?" Minho asked. "They're beaten," Tejo said quietly. "They know it. We know it. If they choose to die, that's their choice. But I won't kill soldiers who want to live." He looked at his troops. "That's not what we are." He stepped forward, into the open space between his forces and the Vorn barricades. It was an incredibly dangerous move. Any sniper could have killed him in an instant, but he stood there, unarmed, waiting. "Vorn Commander," Tejo called out, "this is Colonel Park Tejo. I offer you terms. Lay down your weapons and you will be treated as prisoners according to coalition law. Your wounded will receive medical care. Your dead will be honored. No harm will come to those who surrender." Silence. Then, slowly, a tall Vorn officer rose from behind the barricades. It was Drath, the enemy commander. His armor was damaged and there was blood on his face, but his eyes were fierce. "Why?" Drath demanded. "Why do you offer mercy after hunting us like animals? You pursued us into our sanctuary. You killed thousands of my soldiers. And now you offer peace?" "Yes," Tejo said simply. "That makes no sense. You could kill us all right now. You have the advantage. Why would you stop?" Tejo was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with something Yuna recognized, exhaustion, not of the body but of the soul. "Because killing is not the goal," Tejo said. "Ending the war is the goal. If I can do that without more death, I will. I'm a soldier, Commander, not a murderer. I don't enjoy what I do. I do it because someone has to." Drath stared at him. Yuna could see the conflict in the alien's eyes. Pride fighting against reason, honor against survival. "You're lying," Drath said finally. "No warrior offers mercy after a hunt. It's a trick." "Then shoot me," Tejo replied. "I'm standing in the open. One shot and I'm dead. Your soldiers could kill dozens of us before we respond. If you truly believe I'm lying, prove it." Nobody moved. Nobody fired. Drath's hands trembled on his weapon. Yuna's finger tightened on her trigger. Then Drath lowered his rifle. "No," he said. "No more death. We surrender." A wave of relief washed through Yuna. She had been ready to fight, ready to die if necessary. But this was better. This was what they were supposed to be fighting for. But not every Vorn soldier agreed. "Commander, no!" a young officer shouted. He raised his weapon toward Tejo. Yuna didn't think. She didn't aim. She simply moved. Her rifle came up and fired before the Vorn's weapon had fully risen. The young officer fell. Silence again. Then, slowly, the remaining Vorn soldiers began laying down their weapons. Tejo walked forward and extended his hand to Drath. The Vorn commander looked at it for a long moment, then took it. "Why do you do this?" Drath asked quietly. "Truly, why do humans come after us when everyone else stops?" Tejo looked back at his soldiers, exhausted, wounded, but still standing. Yuna met his eyes and saw something she recognized. The weight of responsibility, the burden of being the one who finishes what others start. "Because if we don't," Tejo said, "the war never really ends. It just waits. It grows. It comes back stronger. So we end it here." Not for glory, not for revenge. Just so everyone can finally go home. Drath nodded slowly. He didn't fully understand. Yuna could see that, but he accepted it. Medical teams moved in to treat the wounded on both sides. Yuna holstered her weapon and opened her medical kit. There was work to do, lives to save, regardless of which side they fought on. Jinho appeared beside her, a bandage wrapped around his arm. "You okay, Sarge?" "I'm alive," she said. "That's enough for now." "You know," Jinho said, watching the Vorn prisoners being led away peacefully, "I think I understand now. Why we do this." "Yeah? It's not about killing. It's about stopping the killing." He paused. "Does that make sense?" Yuna looked around the cavern, at the human soldiers helping enemy wounded, at the weapons lying abandoned on the ground, at the war that had finally, truly ended. "Yeah," she said. "It makes sense." Dawn came slowly to Tassara 9. The sun rose over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. It was beautiful, Yuna thought. Strange, how war zones could still be beautiful. She sat on a supply crate near the landing field, watching the human transport ships prepare for departure. Around her, soldiers were loading equipment, treating final wounds, and saying goodbye to comrades who would not be coming home. They had lost 47 soldiers in the night operation, 47 men and women who had families, friends, dreams. Yuna knew some of their names. She had treated their wounds in previous campaigns. She had laughed at their jokes, shared their meals, listened to their fears. Now they were gone. The surviving soldiers dealt with grief in the human way, with dark humor, with shared silence, with stories about the dead. Jinho was telling a group of soldiers about a prank one of the fallen soldiers had played on their commanding officer 3 years ago. Everyone was laughing, even though tears ran down their faces. That was how humans mourned. They remembered the life, not just the death. Sora sat alone on a rock, cleaning her rifle. She had not spoken since the battle ended. Yuna knew better than to disturb her. Sora processed things internally, quietly, in her own time. Minho was coordinating with medical teams, making sure every wounded soldier received proper care. His prosthetic arm had been damaged in the fighting, but he refused treatment until everyone else was handled. That was Minho. Always the last to rest, always the first to sacrifice. Yunji was already writing reports, documenting the operation for military records. Somewhere in those reports, Yuna knew, her own actions would be recorded. She had killed many enemy soldiers last night. She had also saved many lives. The numbers would balance out on paper, but not in her dreams. A shadow fell over her. She looked up to see Colonel Tejo standing nearby, looking out at the sunrise. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. Yuna shook her head. He lowered himself onto the crate beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just watched the sun rise. "You did good work last night," Tejo said finally. "Your squad was exceptional." "Thank you, sir." "How are you holding up?" Yuna considered the question. How was she holding up? She was exhausted. She was sad. She was grateful to be alive. She was haunted by the faces of the soldiers she had killed. She was proud of the ones she had saved. "I'm here," she said. "That's something." Tejo nodded. "It's everything. Never forget that." In the distance, Yuna could see Commander Yeohana approaching with Lieutenant Pak Do-hoon. The alien commander walked slowly, her 4 arms held close to her body. She looked troubled. When she reached them, she saluted. Tejo stood and returned the salute. "Colonel," Hana said, "your troops are preparing to leave." "Yes, ma'am. We've received new coordinates. Another operation." "Already? You just finished this one." "The work doesn't stop, Commander. It never stops." Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question Yuna could see had been eating at her all night. "Why do you do this?" The battle was won before you arrived. You could have rested, celebrated, let the enemy retreat and rebuild. Why did you go into those mountains?" Taiho looked at his troops, Yuna and her squad, and all the others who had fought through the night. They were battered, tired, carrying wounds both visible and invisible. But they were still standing. They were still ready to do what needed to be done. "Because someone has to," he said. "And we learned, a long time ago, that if we don't finish it, the darkness just follows us home. So we go to it first." Hana tilted her head, considering his words. "You're not just soldiers. You're something else. Guardians, maybe, of what comes after." "We're human, Commander. We endure, we remember, and we don't leave a job half done." Taiho paused, looking at the mountains one last time. "The galaxy calls us assault troops. We call ourselves the Reckoning, because we're what comes after everyone else has gone home." Hana nodded slowly. For the first time, Yuna saw understanding in her alien eyes. "Thank you, Colonel, for what you did here, for finishing what we started." Taiho shook her hand, a human gesture that seemed to surprise her. "We're all on the same side, Commander. We just have different jobs. You win the battles, we end the wars. Together, maybe we can build a galaxy where neither is necessary." The transport ships began powering up. Soldiers filed aboard in neat lines. Yuna stood and gathered her equipment. Jinho approached her, limping slightly from his wounded leg. "Ready for the next one, Sarge?" Yuna looked at him, young, scarred, somehow still smiling. Then she looked at Sora, stoic as always. At Minho, finally allowing a medic to look at his arm. At Yunji, already studying the data from their next deployment. Her family, her squad. The ones who would walk into darkness with her again and again until the darkness finally ran out. "Yeah," she said. "Let's go." They boarded the transport ship. The doors closed. The engines roared. As the ship lifted off, Yuna looked through the window at Tassara 9 falling away below them. The battlefield was already being cleaned up. The dead were being buried. The survivors were starting to rebuild. The war on Tassara 9 was over, truly over, because of what they had done. And somewhere, on another world, another battle was ending. Another enemy was retreating. Another war was waiting to be finished. The transport ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, and the stars blurred around them. Humanity's work was never done. The reckoning was always needed, and as long as there was darkness in the galaxy, there would be humans willing to walk into it. Not for glory, not for power, not for revenge, just to make sure that when the battle was over, it was truly over. Just to help others finally go home. Just to finish the job. The end.